So in the last section, we talked about managing money or finance. In this section, we're talking about like, how do you know what to buy? And I'm going to start with this. I can't answer this. We're going to give you some guidelines, but I want to create a picture for you. When you start a business, you're here. And outside of that bundle, you've got like maybe literally dozens of people who are, it's not that no one's trying to hurt you, but it could be you. You just got dozens of choices to make on brochures and business cards and websites and accounting technology. And how do you know what to buy in the beginning? I think it's one of the reasons people don't start businesses because it just seems so daunting that it's going to cost so much money. But the truth is, you don't need that much to start a business. So we're going to talk in this section about what do you really need. Also, just to make this interesting, I like lacing in some stories that might help you out. When I started SageWorks, I didn't know much about software. I knew what I wanted to develop, but I didn't know much about the software business. So I went around to some venture capital people and software entrepreneurs. And not everyone said this, but enough people said it where I paid attention. They would say things like, oh, you need $1 million to develop a software company. I'm like, woof, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of cash. It often necessitates the need to get outside capital. So what I did in that case is I said, well, what's involved in developing software? Well, you need code. Okay, what's code? Well, code's in a language. Okay, who does that? How does that get done? Well, where does it get compiled? What's a compiler? The truth is, to develop a software company is not expensive. It certainly doesn't cost you $1 million. Now, if you have something that you need to put out real quickly at commercial strength, maybe it can cost you a lot of money. But be very, very skeptical about spending money. Just be a cynic about spending money, and that will cover this whole section. So here we go. Things that you probably need when you start out. You probably need an accountant. You might probably sort of kind of need a bookkeeping system. You need something where you can keep records. But again, that can be as easy as a credit card. You probably need a computer. I used to be in the day, and this is quite a while ago, I'm aging myself a little bit here, but in the day, I wouldn't recommend that you necessarily need a computer, but because the prices have gone down to $200, $300, $400 or something like that, because you want to be able to send emails and type out letters or whatever, you probably need a computer. You need a way to get paid. There's no doubt about that. We're going to touch on this later on, but if you're in a business where you have an account on your balance sheet called accounts receivable, that means that customers owe you money. You definitely want to make it very easy for those customers to pay you. You may need a website. You probably need a website. I'm a little torn on this, by the way. We're going to talk about this a little bit later on. You might not need a super expensive website, but most businesses today, especially as they grow, get websites. Things that you probably don't need, and you're going to be inundated with vendors who will try to sell you these things, and you're going to also convince yourself that you need these things when you probably don't. You usually don't need fancy office space, even if you're a law firm, really. Inexperienced entrepreneurs, people who are not, this is not a truism, but people who are probably not going to be successful, overpay for office space. They want fancy stuff. We are not fancy stuff people. As entrepreneurs, we are bottom line, make money people. And if you spend lots of money, it's harder to make a profit. So you don't need office spaces that are super fancy and dolphins in the lobby and all that stuff. That's not a good entrepreneur. New vehicles. Depending upon your business and your condition, I'm a big advocate for buying used. Buy used everything. Especially vehicles. Vehicles cost a lot more when they're brand new than they do even a year later. Expensive furniture. Again, this falls in the fancy category, right? Good entrepreneurs are trying to keep their overhead low. The next category or sort of thing is it's a little bit softer to describe, but I'll give it a shot. Software that you don't really need. Um, you probably need an accounting software system, something at some point of scale. If you're doing $1 billion of revenue, you're going to need an accounting software system. You probably want to be able to type a letter out. You might need Microsoft Word, so on and so forth. But there's other tangential software categories that you may not need or you probably don't need when you're really young. For example, you have to ask yourself, if you don't have any customers, do you need a CRM system? Do you need a customer relationship management system on day one? I would argue no. Now, if you have millions of customers, you might need a CRM system. But again, the tendency is to overbuy in software for people who are not experienced running businesses. Unnecessary employee perks, that really entails any perks for growing businesses. Really important to keep in mind that as your business grows, the level of, I don't know if perks is not the right word, but the level of stuff that you give to employees can go up modestly. But in the growth stage of your business, when you're trying to maintain profitability, you want to make sure that your benefits to employees are fair, but they're not over the top.